Good evening, students. Welcome to the student session. Shall we start now? Hello. Today we shall start Block 2, Unit 5. Unit 5 is about policy planning in educational management. Educational management at the state level. So here we shall discuss in this session the strategies for policy formulation, process of policy formulation, bodies associated with the policy planning and policy implementation, state boards of school education, English language teaching institutes, state publication, textbook board, state council of educational research and training, state institutes of educational management and training. Next, the educational management at the state level in its implementation. Different states, they have implemented different programs. These are like Mahila Samukhya, Bihar Educational Project, Lok Jumbis, UP Basic Education Project, Vocationalization of Education, Diets, Adult Education, State Specific Schemes. Next we have under discussion that is policy formulation at state level and policy implementation. So we shall start with that. The first we have to meet what objectives we have to meet today lesson. The process of policy formulation in India in general and state level in particular. In the last class, we have discussed about the policies, educational policies and formulation, national bodies. But today we shall learn about the how policy formulation and implementation at state level. Okay. Describe the bodies associated with the policy planning and policy implementation. Next, we have to discuss about the programs, projects and schemes. Then, what are the state's priority areas in implementing the policies? And last, we will discuss about the challenges and issues associated with the process of policy implementation. So the first aspect we have to discuss, that is strategies for policy formulation. Well, friends, we have discussed in the last two classes about the policy formulation, policy implementation, different bodies associated with policy, and all these are connected with the national levels. Today we shall discuss about the state level, how policy are being implemented and formulated at the state level. National policies are implemented at state level. What are the bodies at the state level that are working for policy formulation, policy implementation? Okay. So now we shall discuss about that how policy is being formulated at the state level. Very interesting to know. It is a question. Sometimes you might have question in your mind that policy is framed at national level and how it is being implemented at the state level. So very curious to know that policy, when it is framed, a plan is made. So policy document is prepared by some group of experts, and these experts are selected by the government. Then the document is widely circulated and discussed at different levels. Then what happens? Now it is subsequently revised taking into account recommendations received from various stakeholders. अब बुझी पारुछन तो? हेलो ମୁଁ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ କହୁଛି ଯେ how policy is being formulated. Policy formulation ଟା ହଉଛି ବେଶୀ important. The how it is being formulated at the process of formulation. First, policy document is prepared by a group of experts, and that is constituted by the government. Then, this government document is circulated widely at different levels. Then, third, what happened? Then it is subsequently revised, taking into account the recommendation received from different stakeholders. The stakeholders may be teachers, administrators, the NGO personnel, and politicians. So from many levels, the stakeholders give their discussion is made and they give their recommendations. And these recommendations are collected and revised. The final version of the document is then placed at the Parliament for national policy or Legislative Assembly for respective state policy. Okay? Follow my point? The how policy is formulated. ସମସ୍ତେ ବୋଧେ ବୁଝିପାରିଲ policy formulation process ଟା. Next, it becomes a national or state policy. Whether it is national policy or state policy, the process is followed in this way. The next, that is policy formulation, it is the first process. Second process, the government appoints a commission or a committee for its recommendations on some policy issues. Government appoints, second aspect, government appoints commissions or committee for its recommendation if some issues arise. The acceptance of the approval, Parliament or Legislative Assembly by the government become government policy. Then the third one is certain policies are either passed by the cabinet ministers or are circulated by the education department in the form of executive orders. These are the three ways through which policies are formulated. Okay. Next is, I have already told you that in the year 1976, education is the subject in concurrent list. So concurrent list, both national and state responsibility, both national and state are responsible for formulating education and to develop their own policies as well as the program implementation. They have their freedom. So the union government would accept the larger responsibility to reinforce the national and integrative character of education to maintain its quality and standard. Then we have in 73rd and 74th amendment, what happened? In the previous class, I have told you that decentralization of education, remember it. The decentralization of education, that is education responsibility was it was implemented in the urban area and also rural areas. Panchayat Raj institutions were given the power to formulate policies for district specific educational developments. So the blocks, the villages and the districts policies are also implemented there, and they also take they become the stakeholders for the formulation in the policy. Particularly, the policy are formulated at national, state, district, and panchayat, and also in the institution. In these areas, formal policies are implemented, and at the state level, very few states have taken initiative for making state level policies. Also, these have been given in your books. What are the programs and policies state have developed? State itself has developed according to their need or situation. Then we will discuss about process of policy formulation. To fulfill constitutional commitment, various commissions and committees are generally set up by the Government of India to determine the priorities. What is the top priorities? On the basis of the importance or priorities, policy is being formulated. What is the best requirements to fulfill that need? Basic essential of the people and the nation and the state. Commissions and committees are formed. Based on the commission's recommendations, policies are formulated. After independence, major macro level policy decisions at the central and the state level were taken on the basis of three commissions. What are the three commissions? After independence, University Education Commission 1948-49, Secondary Education Commission in the year 1950-53, and the Education Commission 1964-66. The first two commissions were set up for specific levels. What are the specific level? One is University Commission only recommended for the university and higher education development. And the Secondary Education Commission, it made recommendation for the development of secondary education only. Okay. And the third one, that is Kothari Commission, which was developed in 1964-66. It was a comprehensive committee and recommended from pre-primary to higher education, women education, different aspects of education. It was not confined to one level like University and Secondary Education Commission. The Kothari Commission articulated goals and objectives of education for all stages in the context of national goals. Follow my point? I understood that how these three commissions took very important played very important role in formulating the policies. Next is, after that, from time to time, a number of committees were set up by the central or state government to make recommendation on some specific aspects. And these were examined by the government and found acceptable and then implemented. Then we have, after independence, we have two policies. Who can say what are two policies? Anyone? Hello? One is National Policy on Education 1968. Another one is 1986. Okay. So these policies have been framed to give recommendation for the development of education in different aspects, and the process is same. First, I told you about the process of formulating the way policy, same process, and next, that is, while formulating the policies, the particularly 1986 policy National Policy on Education, the first state diagnostic document entitled Challenges of Education, a Policy Perspective was developed by the government. Here is what process was followed. So, as per the requirement of the nation, different aspects of education were discussed at different levels. The problems were discussed and recommendations were given by different stakeholders, and they are reviewed and discussed at different levels. Their suggestions were taken into considerations, and also after that this document was widely circulated and discussed in various forums all over the countries. The view of the individuals, groups, and states were invited and consolidated in the form of citizens' perception. Follow my points? How the document 1986 policy was formulated. This is the process. This draft was then discussed in the Conference of Education Ministers of States. After incorporating the suggestions of the state government, another draft was prepared. Then this was presented in the parliament and passed after discussion, and then it was approved in the cabinet August 1986. Then it became the National Policy on Education 1986. It came into force. So in this way, a policy is formulated and it is accepted as a policy finally when it is placed in cabinet and passed. Then the document is ready for implementation in the nation. Okay. The policy was followed by a program of action. Then for the time program of action that was prepared, again you might have knowledge that in 1992 revised version that of the 1986 policy that was called the program of action, some aspects were some issues were also discussed, reviewed, discussions were made, and finally in some aspects recommendation was also suggested. Then in the year 1990, National Policy on Education 86 was reviewed by a committee set up under chairmanship of Acharya Ram Murthy. The review report towards an enlightened human society suggested that in order to achieve equity and social justice, education policy should be closely linked with other policies and a common school system that must be developed. So then we have the reviewed report was examined by the Minister of Human Resource Development, which brought out National Policy on Education 1986 with modifications undertaken in 1992 and revised the Program of Action 1992. Some revision was made and that was named as Program of Action 1992. Here, based on the revised policy and program of action, each state was also asked to prepare its own program of action on the basis of guidelines provided by the 1992 and the specific situation of the state. The next review was also made in the it was due in 1997, but it was not made. After that, other commissions were also giving their recommendations. Then we have the policy gave added importance to launching of a large-scale program of non-formal education and provided incentives to voluntary agencies for running the centers. Non-formal education centers, here the different programs under these policies, they were implemented in different states, and states also carried the programs for the development of the uh, mm, uh, persons, or the institutionally it was implemented. The educational priorities defined by NEP have continued till date, which is reflected through the number of state level and national programs and schemes launched to achieve the targets of UEE. Now we have universalization of primary education. It was the most focusing point of NPE 86. So, to under this, to realize the aim of universalization of education throughout nation, different states, they have implemented this program. And you all are aware of this thing that education for all in 90, then the program of IFA goals and proposed 12 strategies, the beginning from early childhood and extending throughout life. Declaration emphasized the high quality educational opportunity to all. Then no one will be excluded from education, no discrimination, equal educational opportunity. All these things were given priority in every state, and the policy was implemented uh, perfectly in taking into these aspects were given importance by the states while implementing the educational programs. Then we have bodies associated with the policy planning and policy implementation. So policy planning and policy implementation. Then now we are discussing about the policy planning at the state level. National level policy 1986 has been formulated. It is, so how it will be implemented at the state level? It is the lookout of the state. If necessary, state will develop its own policy relating to that. Follow my point or not? Then how it is being made. So according to the planning document, education should enable all children, citizens to acquire literacy, numeracy, computational skill, basic understanding of the surrounding world. Then functional skills relevant to daily life and the local environment. Then, therefore, after independence, a number of steps have been taken to promote educational facilities. With the result, many schools, colleges, institutions of teachers training, and educational administrators were established. The professional support institutions are rapidly developed, and many academic support systems have been developed at the state level to provide academic support to school education. So, what are the professional institutions have been developed in, particularly in our state? Because you all belong to Odisha, am I right? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello? Yes. So, what are the professional institutions have been developed where the policy policy has been implemented. The program of the policy, the schemes of the policy have been implemented. Who can say? We have already discussed it in our previous classes. Okay. Then SCRT.
Ma'am, establishing of different training institutions.
What are these? I am just asking the name. SCRT, the State Council of Educational Research and Training. Okay. Second is the SIE, that is State Institute of Education. Next is the DIET, District Institute of Education and Training. Then State Institute of Educational Management and Training. And again, Institute of Educational Technologies, sites. All these things are the professional institution They, what are their function? I have already told you. Again, also telling this, that they frame their own rules, regulation, policy, and organize teacher training program following the policy of the NCRT. NCRT is state bodies, autonomous body of state, national bodies, and follow SCRT is a state body, and following the rules and regulations of NCRT, that is the national body, it formulates policy and also implement that at the state level for curriculum development, for teachers training, for developing module, or for conducting workshop. Many programs are done by SCRT. Similarly, other departments like national level, we have these institutions at the state level. These are state institutes, state bodies to implement the policies at the state level. Okay. Then next is we have we have professional institute, professional support institutes. What are these? ISC cities, mane Institute of Advanced Studies in Education. In Cuttack, we have Radhanath Training Institute, Teacher Training Institute. So it has Advanced Studies in Education. Then colleges of teacher education. We have also diets. Uh, Planning policy formulation institution NIPA at the central level, at the national level. Similarly, we have and NCRT at the national level. Similarly, we have SCRT, site, all these institutions. Okay, बुझी पर्यंत. Then next is we have state boards of school education. These are the what are these? I am discussing about the bodies that implement our policies. Okay. Then there are 42 state boards. Now the number will increase. Then that have been increased. Most of the states have a single board or senior secondary education. Due to expansion of primary education, some states have bifurcated the school board into separate boards. These boards are generally statutory bodies. How many boards we have here? Secondary stage. We have Board of Secondary Education for conducting 10th board, and we have Council of Higher Secondary Education, CHSE, that is conducting higher secondary education examination. Okay. So at the school level, we have 2 boards in Odisha. Then we come to English Language Teaching Institute. These English Language Teaching Institute were set up for the improvement of English, teaching in English as a second language in schools, to provide training to teachers and preparation of teaching material and aids. Next, we have State Publication or Textbook Board. These boards were set up to promote education through production of high quality textbooks and other instructional materials. Then it also undertake evaluation and research for improvement of school curriculum. Next, we have SCRT, State Institute of Education, were established for qualitative improvement of elementary education. What are their function? The function is comprised organizing in-service training for teachers and supervisory personnel. Then extension activities, research and publication of instructional material. And next we have the main objectives of SCRT or SICs are to bring improvement in quality of education and teacher training at the school level. Improve in the system of inspection, supervision, conduct research and innovation in the establishment of coordination between the state and national council for educational research and training. Then it also develop, monitor and evaluate educational programs at school level, including elementary teacher education. Then the function of State Institute of Educational Management and Training are to organize in-service training programs, undertake research, evaluation, professional and research support in educational planning and administration, and establish network with government and non-government organizations. Then the next aspect we will discuss that educational management at the state level and its implementation. How educational management and its implementation occur at state level. Management of education refers to management of educational goals, programs and projects. These are core elements in education system. The educational goals are largely projected from national platforms, not from local specific situation and context. Many efforts were put into achieve the goal of universalization of education. To achieve these goals, decentralized planning and management strategies were introduced in the country. So, one important thing is that universalization of elementary education, it is a national program and it is required to be implemented throughout the country. Then how it will be possible? National program, that national policy must be implemented in local level, in our village level, our district level. So decentralization of power, decentralization of planning, management strategy have been introduced for that reason. While the design of these projects, all of these address the objective and strategies of the National Policy on Education 1986. So the special attention was given on girls enrollment, improving educational outcomes, strengthening community involvement, improving teaching and learning materials, and providing in-service teacher training. For implementation of this policy 1986 and program of action, several centrally sponsored schemes also were launched. What are these schemes? Andhra Pradesh Education Project, that was 1989, Mahila Samukhya Project, Shiksha Karmi Project, Bihar Education Project, Lok Jumbis Project, Basic Education Project, District Primary Education Program, Midday Meal Scheme, Vocationalization of Education, Diet, Adult Education, all these things. Now, one important thing that all these programs what I told you, these programs have been implemented by different states, and these are the programs are coming under for successful implementation of universalization of primary education. Okay, so these Andhra Pradesh Primary Education Project, it is the first major externally funded project was undertaken in cooperation with the British government. Andhra Pradesh government launched this program with the cooperation of British government. We are now discussing how policy is being implemented by the state. Andhra Pradesh state with the cooperation of British government, it has implemented the project. Okay. The project focused on the quality improvement of primary education. Next, it is the important strategy of that project is to enhance the teacher competency through specifically designed training programs. Then we have Mahila Samukhya project. in Mohila Samukhya program was launched in the year 1987-89 to translate the goals of NPE and program of action into a concrete program for the education and empowerment of women in rural areas. And particularly it was initiated in 10 districts of Karnataka, Gujarat, UP, and also later it was extended to Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, Uttaranchal, Bihar, Jharkhand and Assam. So Mahila Samakhya project was implemented some district of these states. Then now I observe that how states are implementing national policy, universalization of elementary education programs for the education of elementary stage. Okay. Then we have Shiksha Karmi project, SKB. Shiksha Karmi project was started in the year 1987 in Rajasthan with financial assistance from the Swadeshi International Development Agency, SIDA. So, to deal with the problem of teacher absenteeism in the remote rural areas of Rajasthan, the concept the SKP, Shiksha Karmi project, it was developed. It is aimed at improving enrollment and decreasing dropout rates, especially of girls. The major strategy adopted by the Shiksha Karmi project was to appoint a local teacher known as Shiksha Karmi who could effectively reach out to every girl in the locality. So now you observe that in Rajasthan, to solve this problem in their area, they frame this policy and they develop particularly they formulate this policy and also implemented in their area. Okay. Next is voluntary organizations and communities were assigned the responsibility of providing continuous support and encouragement to the Shiksha Karmi. Then the Shiksha Karmi also constituted village education committees to promote community involvement in primary education and encourage village level planning. So then Bihar Education Project. Bihar Education Project was launched in the state of Bihar in 1991 with the aid of UNICEF. It was operational in 7 districts of Bihar. The objective of the project was reduction of illiteracy, universal elementary education, particularly for children in the age group 6 to 14. Next, we have Lok Jumbis project. Lok Jumbis means People's Movement for Education. It was initiated in Rajasthan to universalize education, to read the education to the people. So, this type of program was implemented in Rajasthan and it aimed at providing access to primary education to all children up to 14 years of age, pursuing the goal of equity in education by enrolling and retaining all children in the school. Next, we have Uttar Pradesh Basic Education Project. Uttar Pradesh Basic Education Project was launched with the financial assistance of World Bank in October 1993. Universal enrollment and retention up to middle level were the objectives of this project. Then capacity building at the grassroots level was the core strategy of this project for attainment of universalization of elementary education. It is stressed on strengthening community participation, improving teacher and staff performance, improving curricula and textbooks. Then we have vocationalization of education. In the secondary education sector, vocationalization of education was started in all the states. The success of the scheme was limited to few states like Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra. Then we have District Institute of Education and Training. In respect of strengthening teachers training institutes, diet. Diet were established with the aim to provide in-service training of teachers. This scheme is being implemented almost all states because the main aim was to strengthen the teachers training, the teachers, or to empower the teachers. All these are the thrust areas of NEP. What are the schemes or the projects we discussed so far? These were the thrust areas of NEP 1986, and the different states, they have developed their own project to implement that project in different districts of their state, and the aim was to make UEE successful one. Follow my point? Next is adult education. Adult education, the focus of the program is on literacy and post-literacy. National Literacy Mission and established of Jan Shiksha Nilayans are the two major schemes directed to promote adult education. Adult education was also one aspect of national policy on education to develop, to literate the adults throughout the country. This program was given emphasis in the national policy on education, and it was implemented by different states in the particularly opening of Jana Shiksha Nilayams, and these programs, these schemes are the first areas of NEP 1986 as well as the program of action 1992. Then we have some state specific schemes. Specifically, some states have developed their schemes suitable to their requirement and areas. These are some of the states provide residential facilities for children living in remote areas such as Charwa Vidyalayas for small hamlets in Bihar, Ahilyabai Holkar Mulina Mofat Prabhas Yojana for girls in Maharashtra, welfare homes for destitute girls in West Bengal, and ashram schools for children living in remote and small habitations in the Union Territory of Andaman and Nicobar Island. So, in our state also, you might be knowing that ashram schools are there in remote areas. So now we will discuss about the policy formulation at state level. In respect of policy formulation, a large number of states have accepted NPE 1986. They do not have their own policy. Maharashtra, Karnataka, UP and West Bengal are four major states. They formulated their own policy. Karnataka, UP and Union Territory of Lakshadweep have their own machinery for policy formulation. Meghalaya, Sikkim and Andaman Nicobar Island had their own policy statements prior to the formulation of National Policy on Education 1986. Okay, so from this discussion we come to we can conclude that as per the requirement of the state, they also formulate their own policies. Different aspects of 1986 national policy are implemented, but according to the suitability of their state, their need of the people, state also formulate their own policies. Okay. So Arunachal Pradesh, they have developed their Kapoor committee to draw 20-year prospective plan for education. Similarly, Gujarat also, the primary education commission, they have framed their own commissions and committees to implement some policies at their state. So Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, they have in different time they have framed their committee and also implement the different programs for the development of education in their state. Then we have policy implementation. So far as policy implementation is concerned, to ensure effective implementation of education policies and programs, three sets of requirements are required. Three important aspects are required. Educational administrator should have a proper perspective of the goals and policies for which they are working. Second aspect is that the capabilities required for performing administrative functions for achieving the prescribed tasks. The third one is interest and dedication on their part to perform the required administrative function. In addition to that, well-known functions of planning, staffing, organizing, motivating, controlling, including performance appraisal and inspection and supervision are considered important administrative functions for accomplishing prescribed goals. So for implementing the policies, states have identified their own priority areas. When the state is going to implement the national policies, it first see its priority areas, states' priority areas. Some states have identified long-term goals. For all the states, the priority area is universalization of elementary education. It was the priority area of all states of the nation. Then, while implementing the goal of UEE, their main stress is on access to reduce the number of out of school children and to improve the quality of education and strengthening the teacher education. These were the first areas so far as implementation of UEE is concerned in different states. They also have another important aspect were stressed by them, that is vocationalization of secondary education, moral education, improving science education, games, sports and physical education, infrastructure development, strengthening of administrative structure, etc. Then within adult education, removal of illiteracy also given topmost priority uh, in most of the cases. Then establishment of national literacy mission, Jan Shiksha Nilayams, and the centers of continuing education are the aspects emphasized in Kerala and Karnataka in two states. And other states like Maharashtra, Gujarat, they are also given their priority area. They are identified as sports and also expansion of library facilities. In Delhi, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal have included examination reforms among the priority areas. So different states, they have given their priority areas and framed programs accordingly. Next we have the in your book you will get the priority areas of different states and how they have given their the importance and they have made programs for that. Then we will discuss about the priority areas like some of the priority state-wise innovative schemes. What are the innovative schemes? Different states they have adopted. Bihar, Mahila Samakhya program to activate women, and then Samruddhi Yojana for inculcating habit of saving among women. Then setting up Jagyagi centers and Mahila Samuhaj, Tribal Research Institute, Sarva Shiksha Abhijan, EGS Center. All these are related to the universalization of primary education, and Bihar state implemented all these things. Similarly, Gujarat state Vidya Sahayak Yojana, stipend to teachers, scholarship, coaching classes, and book banks for students from weaker sections, Tribal Research Institute, nutritional support to primary education, Sarva Shiksha Abhijan. All these things were implemented by Gujarat. Then Goa, similarly, nutritional support to primary education. Haryana, some incentive schemes like promotion of education to girls, SC/ST, and EGS centers. Himachal Pradesh also the innovative program it implemented, that is nutritional support to primary education, EGS centers, Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalaya, then IT education at elementary level. Like that, Karnataka Vidya Vikas program to improve enrollment and attendance, Akshaya program for ensuring attendance, then EGS centers. Similarly, Kerala has given the thrust area, the innovative areas of Kerala was development of school libraries, total literacy program, then tribal research institute, like that. Madhya Pradesh also established Adarsh Vidyalayas, tribal research institute, nutritional support to primary education, then Sarva Shiksha Abhijan, EGS centers, para teachers, Meghalaya, Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalaya, establishment of diet and EGS centers. Then in Odisha, Gyan Jyoti movement, bridge course for tribal children, school computer program, then Tribal Research Institute, nutritional support to primary education, EGS centers. These are the innovative programs adopted by our state. In Punjab, Sarva Shiksha Abhijan, Border Area Development Program. Rajasthan, Shiksha Karmi Project, Lok Jumbis Project, Chabra Project for the disabled, Tapare Prehar, Patsala for non-formal education, Sarva Shiksha Abhijan, EGS centers. Likewise, there are other states, they have also um, implement the innovative programs. Chandigarh incentives to girls and weaker sections, nutritional support to primary education, Sarva Shiksha Abhijan, nutritional support to primary education, then incentive to girls and weaker section, Sarva Shiksha Abhijan. These were implemented by Daman and Diu, and Puducherry, incentive to girls and weaker sections, nutritional support to primary education, Sarva Shiksha Abhijan. Uh, all the details you will find in your book, and now the national and state government of India, the programs that has innovative programs have been implemented in different states. The goal is to effectively implement universalization of elementary education in their state. So these are the programs adopted by them. Then we'll sum up the unit 5. So the first we discussed about the policy formulation and implementation in India, and then how these different aspects of the policy are implemented in uh, different states, and how careful attention should be taken by different levels, different states, while implementing the programs. Policy should ideally deal with goals, objectives, priorities, implementation, machinery, evaluation, and feedback mechanism. Then we discussed about the programs like universalization of primary education, non-formal education, and vocational education, are all suffering from deficiency in implementation, and different states, they have developed their programs, they have developed their policies to implement these programs at their own level, taking into account the requirement of their states. The administrators have to accept the challenges of implementation of educational policies and programs more carefully. Educational administrators hold the key to the implementation of policies and programs by making use of their administrative skills and management techniques, and have to ensure that they are able to do their best in implementing the educational policies and programs at different levels. Then we discussed about the policy formulation at state level that must be based on thorough review or diagnostic of the educational situation. This is the most important aspect while implementing the program, the policy at the state level. The thorough review or diagnosis must be made by the state of its own educational situation. It should be done in a professional manner. Policy goals need to be set up in accordance with the national goals as specified in the constitution or the national policy documents. Policy objectives should be clearly stated by the state. Priorities need to be identified both in short and long term perspectives. Target have to be specifically set, keeping into consideration specific situation and likely availability of resources. Then alternatives in implementation should be chosen, keeping into consideration of availability of resources. Availability of resources consist of two important things. One is human resource and as well as financial aspect. Then necessary um, monitoring, evaluation, and feedback mechanisms also should operate. Then we have proper review, monitoring, and evaluation mechanisms should be properly carried out. Then according to the implementation of NP 86 recommended the review policy after every 5 years. So when the policy is being implemented in a particular state, that must be reviewed after some years gap. What will happen now? Whether it is implemented perfectly, some effective implementation has been made or not, whether it faces some problems. Then if some problems arises, again solution will be taken, reviews again and again, a review will be made and proper recommendation will be given for its improvement. Then it is very when a policy is being framed, is formulated, is implemented, everyone should be aware of that, the how it is being perfectly implemented, and it is the duty of the state to see the implementation must be made according to the requirement of the state or the situation. Then this is all about unit 5 of block 2. Any doubt? Shall we start the next? That is unit 6, organizational structure and policy implementation. Organizational structure and policy implementation, like national level, here also at the state level there is also organizational structure and policy implementation, and we will discuss in this unit history of education departments, educational administration at the state level. It consists of Minister of Education, the Secretariat of Education, and Directorate of Education. Next, we will discuss about the structure of education at directorate level, government school education department, constraints in functioning of the education department, other support structures at the state level, implementation of policy at different levels of education, elementary education, adult education, secondary education, administration of higher education. The first we will start with that how this organizational structure and policy implementation will be made. So here we will discuss about the historical background as well as the state government's machinery for educational administration in India. Then we have our history of education departments. Now you see in the ancient India, like the present situation, we have we are in a democratic we're living in a democratic country. So and at the state level and national level, we have our government, the parliament, the decision, all the policies are framed there. At the state level, we have legislative assemblies, but at the ancient times, these are not. Then how, what are the, now we will discuss about the history of education departments. In ancient India, education was given priority, but there were always various centers of learning for imparting education. Home was the center of education first. There were not more schools like today's situation. During the prehistoric period, the family was the main agency for imparting education. Then we have different private tutors, gurukulas, ashramas. They were in the Vedic age. We all aware of that. Then Buddhism and Jainism brought fundamental changes in access to education. During that time, monasteries were developed. Well-organized educational institution came into existence during Buddhist monasteries. Then during medieval period, we all know that different social groups supported different types of education. Then the history says that formal institutions were there, but different chatsalis. And during that Mughal period, Akbar, he was interested in the spread of education, particularly for the Hindus and the Muslims. And then we have similarly Aurangzeb also further expanded the educational institutions, and during his times, orders were issued to provincial governments to look into the education of their subjects. Then coming to the British government, the East India Company first came to India to do its business, but later on also they took interest to spread education. Then in the year 1935, Macaulay's minute, downward filtration theory, what we discussed in the previous classes, and in the 1854 Wood's dispatch, also he also passed his official document for providing and expanding education in India. Then the provision of schooling in British India, they also had given importance on the establishment of schools, also the higher education. During his period, 3 universities were established, and then we have in the year 1882 Hunter Commission. Hunter Commission in the year 82 was appointed to inquire the condition of education in India. Then several attempts have been taken by the Britishers to spread education, though not it was not reached to the mass, but some extent the class of the society were benefited by their education. In 1901, Lord Curzon convened a conference of Indian educationists, directors and public instructors, which led to more involvement of government, strengthening administration and creation of the post of Director General to advise the government on education issues. Then in this way, in 1923, the Department of Education was amalgamated with the Department of Health, Revenue and Agriculture and named as Department of Education, Health and Land. So after that, in the year 1935, the activities of the government department took a turn towards educational reconstruction soon after provincial autonomy was granted under this Government of India Act 1935. And after independence, the Department of Education has completely recognized and considerably expanded. And after that, we have in India, in 1976, education was put under the concurrent list. Both the state and the center were made responsible for the education. And then in our constitution, different articles has given emphasis on the education of the people, starting from Article 45, 46 and different amendments, particularly 86th amendment. It has made the education, primary education a fundamental right, and several 5-year plans have been made to provide grants for the spread of education from primary level to the higher level education. Then also besides that, for sustaining educational programs, states they have to depend upon the advice and financial aid to the center. So in different states, they have developed their departments of education for the development of education. The list have been given of different states in for the development of Department of Education. Andhra Pradesh, it has developed its education department in 1956. Assam also in 1905. Arunachal Pradesh 1947. Bihar 1911. And Chhattisgarh 2001. Gujarat 1960. And also in Odisha 1936. Our state developed Directorate of Public Instruction, jahaku short re kuhaଯାଉଛି DPI. Then Tamil Nadu Board of Public Instruction 1826, Tripura Directorate of Education 1951, Delhi Education Department 1912. In different years, different states, they have developed their education department for the smooth functioning of education programs. Then we will discuss about the educational administration at the state level. You might have knowledge about different departments that are operating in the field of educational administration. And now we have what are the departments. Uh, each state or union territory has established an education department that we discussed now, and the education department perform three important functions. First function is regulatory, second is operational and directive. Regulatory, operational and directory. And directive function is the third one. First is regulatory, and here regulatory function is that which looks after the policy, planning and program formulation at secretariat level. And the second function is operational, that is responsible for implementation of program. And the third is directorate level, and the directive functions looks after inspectoral or supervisory function at district level. So the Directorate of Education or the Education Department, it performs three important functions. So educational administration differs from state to state. One type of administration is not accepted by all states. They have the different administrations. There are varying number education ministers, education secretaries and other officers at the secretariat level like additional secretaries, special secretaries, deputy secretaries, assistant secretaries and under secretaries. Some states have more number of education ministers. In our states, we have Minister of Education, Education Minister. Under him, there is a department, Secretary of Education. Secretary is the head of that. And to assist him, there are deputy secretaries, principal secretary, joint secretaries, additional secretaries. Okay. Then under that, the Directorate of Education, and he is the director is the head of the Directorate of Education, and he is also assisted by deputy director, joint director, additional director, likewise. So they perform the functions like functional relationship or coordination between different levels of administration and types of institution, though the system varies from state to state. These institutions from Ministry to Directorate of Education, there is coordination. Ministry of Education directs the Secretariat of Education, then Secretariat of Education directs the Directorate of Education to implement the policies, to implement the program. So there must be coordination among the three. Otherwise, implementation of the program cannot be possible. So, for coordinating the educational activities of the state, region, district and lower levels, state have to carry out the following regulatory, operational and directive functions. Now you see that Ministry of Education of the state frame the policy and that must be implemented at the institutional level. The policy is framed for implementation at the institutional level. So, if it is the objective, then there must be coordination among the three units. Okay. So, what are the regulatory, operational and directive functions? The policy making in education, coordination of education at all stages and levels, then personnel administration, budget formulation, plan and expenditure control, granting aid to non-government institutions, state government's functioning. These are the functions of the state government Department of Education. Administration of elementary schools, control and supervision of secondary education, control and supervision of higher education, supervision and administration of National Cadet Corps, then libraries, teaching of Oriental language, scholarship, supervision and control of teacher training. So all these activities are performed by the state education department. The coordination with all the three important bodies. These functions are discharged by the educational functionaries of the state government, educational functionaries at the secretariat level, directorate level, regional level, district level, and also at the lower levels. The responsibility is also shared by the local government agencies and voluntary organizations operating in the state, as also the internal administrative machinery of the various universities located in the state. Now, along with all these, the ministry, starting from Ministry of Education to the local level, that means at the bottom level, there must be coordination among all the machineries, functionaries. Otherwise, the policy cannot be implemented at the grassroots level. Next, first we have the Minister of Education. For the purpose of planning and administration of education, each state government has a Department of Education. Minister, who is the member of state legislature, he is the head of the department and responsible for initiation, direction, and execution of the education policy of the state. Then the policy has been planned at the national level, but at the state level, the Minister of Education is responsible for execution of that policy in the state. Then he is also responsible for planning of education in the state, but is answerable for the development, progress, and steps taken in the state in the field of education. What are the steps taken in the field of education? He is answerable to the policy um, planning organization. That means to the national level. The success of any program generally depends upon the personality of the minister, the secretary, director of education advises him, but the success of the program depends upon the perseverance and determination of the minister. Then how far mostly the interest of the minister is very essential for implementing the policy in the state. Minister is to take the sole responsibility for policy implementation at his state. Then next is Secretariat of Education. Under Ministry of Education, we have Secretariat of Education. The Secretariat of Education is headed by a Secretary of Education, and he is responsible for policy formulation, planning, programming, budgeting of education, coordinating among different directors and directorates with other departments. Work relating to appointment, promotion, transfer of senior officers. These are the works of the Secretariat of Education. Besides administrative powers, the Education Secretary enjoys full financial powers such as sanctioning of various schemes, projects, and the schemes of expansion of education, both plan and non-plan, uh, are first approved by the education secretary and then submitted to the planning and finance department. Then there are number of other officers of the rank of joint secretary, deputy secretary, under secretary. They are the associated. These people are associated with secretary to carry out the work effectively. These officers are responsible for implementation of educational policies in the state. The secretariat remains in direct touch with the Ministry of Education. Then we have they perform the decisions on policy matters are taken at this level and then submitted for the approval of minister. Secretariat acts as a link between executive headed by the director on the one hand and the minister of education on the other. Next is their work is it is not necessary that each matter should go to the minister. Many of the routine matters are disposed of at the stage of secretary and also but all policy matters have to go of the ministerial level. Policy matter must go to the ministerial level and the other matters which is not related to policy that can be um, solved at the secretariat level. Then the Secretary of Education is usually a member of Indian Administrative Service. He is an IAS officer. Then in some states, the Secretary to the Government for Education may have other responsibilities as well, and so they may be responsible for more than one minister. The Secretary of Education may read this position without any experience in the administration of education, as they are the administrators, they are the IS officers. They directly be given this assignment. The secretaries of education generally look after the aspects of education like mass education, school education, higher education, technical education, vocational education. In our state, what you see, in higher education, we have a secretary, it is higher education department, there is a secretariat and a secretary in charge of higher education. He is also associated with other secretaries, under secretary, then additional secretary, assistant secretaries. And similarly, we have mass education school and mass education department. There is also the head of the secretariat. There is one IS, and he is also associated with other secretaries. School mass education department, higher education department, vocational education. So similarly, technical education, medical education department, all the heads of that department, the secretariat, it is one IS is the head of that department. And also he is associated with other IS officer and OS officers also. Then university and college education is responsibility of the higher education department. Different states, they have their own administrative structure at secretariat level. I already discussed the administrative structure at secretariat level and also at the directorate level. The administrative structure of secretariat level is that at the top level secretary, then principal secretary, under him joint secretaries, then deputy secretaries, and the last officers on special duty. So this is the structure of secretariat and administrative structure of secretariat. Then in different states, they have their administrative structure and education minister of schools. Now, In the administrative structure is that secretary, first minister of education, then secretary, then director, then deputy director, and under him district education officer, and then principal of high or higher secondary, block education officer, under block education officer, headmaster of middle school, headmaster of primary school. This is the structure of education department. Not all states have adopted the same administrative structure. They have also their own administrative structure according to their suitability. And then educational, we have Directorate of Education. First we discussed about the Ministry of Education, then Secretariat of Education, then Directorate of Education. Each state department of education has a Directorate of Education, and it is the executive body of the Department of Education. Directorate of Education is the executive body, and Ministry of Education is the regulatory body, Secretariat the operational body, and the Directorate is the executive body. Okay. Then the government moves through the directorates and gets information regarding thousands of institutions in the state. That means Directorate of Education is directly, the administrative structure says that the Directorate of Education is directly connected with the institutions. Higher Education Directorate directly related, connected with the colleges, universities, so higher education institutions. Similarly, the Mass Education Directorate, he will be connected with the school, primary, middle, and also high schools, higher secondary. They are directly connected, and they get thousands of information from the institutions and communicate their issues, the problems, their suggestions. They can communicate to the secretary, then they can communicate to the Ministry of Education. In this way, the implementation of the policy part can be easier. So then the directorate is headed by the director. He is responsible for the administration of education throughout the state. And he frames plans for educational expansion in the state. He also coordinates the educational programs of different districts in the state, and heads evaluation services, examination boards, the appointment, transfer of teachers in government schools are usually done under his charge. Then the head of the directorate is in most cases appointed from the provincial cadre of education service. He is generally selected after much experience in the field of educational administration. An experienced person is appointed as the director of education. Then the directorate keep the government in touch with the educational institutions, and it passes orders for their efficient functioning, arranges for instructions, determines the financial aid to be given to them. The government institutions are direct under his or her control. It gives granting aid to the privately managed schools. So these are the functions of Directorate of Education. There are in some states, there are Unified Directorate of Education, Arunachal Pradesh, Lakshadweep, Andaman Nicobar Island, and Chandigarh. They have single Directorate of Education, deal with the educational matters from primary to higher education level. But in our state, we have different directorates. A separate Directorate of Education, the states having two main directorates. And these states are Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, West Bengal, Rajasthan, Mizoram, Tripura, Sikkim, Goa, Assam, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, Jammu. And also the states having three separate directorates for primary and school education and higher education. Haryana, Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, Bihar, UP, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Odisha also we have three directorates, primary, secondary as well as higher. Then we have the Directorate of Education. The administrative structure is at the top level Directorate of Education, that is under it Directorate, then Additional Director, then Joint Director, and last Assistant Directors. This is the administrative setup of Directorate of Education. Then structure of education at directorate level. Then we have Directorate of School Education, Directorate of School Education, and different states they have their different unified or different levels from directorates for different levels. Then we will discuss about the government school education departments. The commissioner secretary to the government school education department is the head of the department. All the policies of the department are framed and were implemented with the approval of education minister. All the major decisions are taken by the education minister and got implemented through the subordinate functionaries. The director of school education. The director of school education is the head of the directorate at the state level. All the chief education officers of the division and other functionaries of education department, the divisional level directly fall under him, and he is assisted by other directors: joint director school education, joint director elementary education, joint director trainings, personnel officers, deputy director planning and statistics, and another accounts officer. Then the office is also divided into different sections under section heads. To make the day-to-day work of the office, the section officers are gazetted section. The different sections are there to perform works. Gazetted section, non-gazetted section, general section, planning section, private school section, account section, computer section, and then SSA section, migrant section, legal section, RET section, receipt and dispatch section. Besides, in Odisha, we see that we have also many other sections to make the daily work easy, day-to-day work easy, and to provide fast service to the public. Many other sections are there to the function of this section is to assist the officers. Joint Director School Education. The Joint Director School Education exercises the powers of inspection of schools at secondary level. He is also assist the director for the improvement of academic standard of institution by way of providing adequate staff and guidance to the field staff from time to time. Then Joint Director Elementary Education. Joint Director Elementary Education enjoy the power of inspection at elementary level. He is responsible to check and improve the standard of education at elementary level. He also assists the director in respect of administrative matters at elementary level. Then Joint Director Training, he holds the post of Principal, State Institute of Education, and deals with all types of training of the department and holds all type of administrative control of the State Institute of Education and District Institute of Education and Training. Then the work of personnel officer is to assist director school education of all types of personal matters of the directorate besides all administrative matters of the directorate. Then deputy director is responsible for all types of funds relating to plan sector, and he prepares all types of plan. So these are the functions of the Directorate of Education and different directors. Now, what are the constraints in functioning of the education department? The Kothari Commission 1964-66 has identified the role of education secretaries. In addition to mass and adult education directorates, all the states have board school education. In some of the states, there are 2 or more board of school education. West Bengal has 5 board. At present, almost all the states of the pattern on the pattern of Central Advisory Board of Education at the national level have set up State Advisory Board of Education for advising the government in all matters pertaining to education or help in implementation of the education program. In addition, all states have State Council of Educational Research and Training, that is SCRT. Similarly, it has developed on the pattern of NCERT. Then State Council of Higher Education has set up by many universities to review performance, determine financial requirements, and plan innovations and inter-coordination. In our state, we have State Council of Higher Education and doing this work. The basic aim of setting State Council of Higher Education is to strengthen the planning and coordination of college and university education. As state governments are responsible for higher education as well as other levels of education, there are several supporting organizations in the states to carry out different functions. These are the directorates of teacher education, directorates of language and sports and youth, directorates of adult and non-formal education, vocational education, SCRTs, SIs, ISCs, cities for school education, autonomous teacher training institutions and university departments of education, academic institutions including teacher training institutions, and boards of school education. So these are the institutions. And now we will discuss about the implementation of policy at different levels of education. Policy, planning, then executing, we have discussed. Now we come to the implementation of the policy at different levels of education in state. We will discuss about the implementation of educational policy at elementary, adult, secondary and higher education levels. How this is being implemented in elementary education, policy implementation at elementary level. The constitutional responsibility is that the state government is to provide universal elementary education. The effective program of elementary education ensures the progress of the educational system as a whole. Primary education is the base on which other levels, the development of education in the country rests. So primary education is the foundation, so it must be strengthened to bring necessary development in the nation. So some of the major programs of elementary education sector are, we have already discussed them. जो फर्स्ट डीपीईटी डिस्ट्रिक्ट प्राइमरी एजुकेशन प्रोग्राम, बिहार एजुकेशन प्रोजेक्ट, उत्तर प्रदेश बेसिक एजुकेशन प्रोजेक्ट, for promoting education of girls and women empowerment, Mahila Samakhya is a major program for that, and it has been implemented in the states of UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh. Then Lok Jumdish project in Rajasthan in another major program, and it aims to promote primary education in the state with focus on girls. All these programs and projects are foreign funded and in some cases are centrally sponsored in the states. We discussed all these things in the fifth unit, um, uh, that these programs were function in different states with the collaboration of foreign agencies and also centrally sponsored um, fund. Central also provides funds to the states to um, carry out these programs and projects. These have, however, helped in promoting primary education in the states. Besides, there are several centrally sponsored schemes. These are like um, operational blackboard scheme. It aims to providing minimum infrastructure to primary schools with a view to improving the teaching learning process. It is implemented by all states. In our state also, you might have remembered the situation that schools were opened in large numbers on the project of Operation Blackboard. Within 1 kilometer distance, a large number of schools were opened to provide educational opportunities to the school going children. If school will remain in a distant place, the parents may not send their children to the school. So if it will be within 1 kilometer distance, they can easily come to school for study. So this operational blackboard scheme was widely applicable implemented in our state. Now the at least two reasonably large rooms and appointment of at least two teacher, one must be women and necessary study materials. That was the minimum requirement of Operation Blackboard scheme, and that was implemented in our state. Uh, and this was the policy. Uh, this is the program of 1986 National Policy on Education. And similarly, another program, non-formal education scheme, it was earlier implemented in backward states, but gradually it was extended to the backward districts of the advanced state also. Then next is the adult education. To make the illiterate literate, adult education scheme, it was also implemented in different states. National Literacy Mission and establishment of Janasiksha Nilayams are two major schemes under this adult education program in the country. Then coming to secondary education, the state government is responsible for secondary education, and the department exercise its control in the ways that are opens the government schools and administer them. It sets rules and regulations to manage education at different levels. It provides finance to government and gives granting aid to private aided schools, prescribe the course of studies up to elementary education, then recruitment, promotion of teachers, transfer is regulated by the directorate. Norms of inspection and supervision and guidelines are laid down. Setting of educational tribunal, and also it provides professional support system like SCRT, IASH, colleges of teacher education, etc. Then also many schemes have been implemented at the secondary education sector by the education departments. These are vocationalization of education, consolidation facilities, strengthening of science teaching, and to support the entire school education, many innovative schemes have also been started by the state government with the help of central government. Then different state-wise innovative schemes are Bihar Mahila Samukhya program to activate women. Similarly, we have also um, um, different states. It has been enlisted in your book. We will go through that. Then we come to the administration of higher education. The management of higher education is under the preview of state government. However, uh, regarding the maintenance of standard and technical and vocational education, uh, so far reaching consequences, and hence the central participation is very much existence in the field of education. In majority of states, separate secretariat and directorate manage higher education. So the administration of higher education, it has separate secretariat and directorate of education. So first we have university education. All states have state universities. State universities are controlled by state governments. They are constituted by the acts of the state's legislature. These acts govern their functioning, and the universities are not governed by state departments. These are autonomous bodies. The state government provides granting aid to the universities. State universities are not governed by state departments. That means the Secretariat, Directorate of Education, universities are not governed by them. Rather, government provides granting aid to the universities. Collegiate education. At present, there are three types of colleges in the state governments. Government colleges, aided colleges, and privately managed self-finance colleges. The government colleges are administered by Directorate of Education, and aided and self-finance colleges are run by private managements. In many states like Punjab, Haryana, Madhya Pradesh, there is special officer of rank of director who is responsible for collegiate education. Then we have technical education and other professional education. These are managed by different ministries. At the state level, various departments are involved in programs of technical training at school level. In many states, there is a Directorate of Technical Education. Its aim is to coordinate the programs and ensures continuing contact with manpower and planning mechanism and with district level machinery. Then it also in almost all states there is a Directorate of Medical and Health Service which looks after organization of medical education in the state. So now we have will come to the end of this unit. Uh, what we covered in this unit, really we are deal with the implementation part. In this unit, we studied about the organizational structure and policy implementation. And here we discussed about the history of education departments and how from ancient age to the ancient age, then we come to the education departments of Mughal times, and then British government education, functionaries of education, and the departments of education at the British government, and then after independence, how our states they have frame their policies and policy implementation for the structure of education, Ministry of Education, the Secretariat of Education, Directorate of Education, and the structure of education at the directorate level, government school education departments, and then the different constraints in functioning of education departments, and the other support structures at the state level, and most particularly implementation of the policy at different levels of education, elementary, adult education, secondary education, and the administration of higher education. So, and also we discussed about the different uh, departments, state-wise. They have established different educational departments for the spread of education